Hi, I'm Chris Gasper, and this is Globe 10.0. I'm joined today by the General, Greg Lee, sitting in the big chair next to me. Well, there's no team that entered the season with more hype than the Miami Heat, and for good reason. Whenever you have LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh uniting down in South Florida, all taking their talents to South Beach, well, there's going to be a lot of scrutiny. However, it hasn't worked out so great so far for the Heat. They're 5-3, and now it's time for Celtics Heat Round 2 tonight down in Miami. Greg, let me ask you this. Why so much hate for the Miami Heat?
Well, basically because what LeBron James did. A lot of people didn't like the fact that he announced there's a decision to go to South Beach the way he did. A lot of people didn't like the fact that they came together to form a super team. So basically there's just a lot of people who don't like him just for really superficial reasons.
I agree. I think everybody feels like these guys took shortcuts. Now, D-Wade already has a title, so he's won. But people feel like Bosh, and especially LeBron, bailed on their teams. And they bailed on their teams quickly, and they didn't give them a lot of notice. And I think that has left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. And they feel like this whole thing was orchestrated to begin with. These guys were all kind of in cahoots, and they don't like that one bit. And I think a lot of people are rooting against these guys. They're kind of like the Yankees now, of like the NBA, which is good for the Celtics, because the Celtics were not well liked in the league, and now all the attention and all the haterade is on the Miami Heat. So good for the Celtics.
Well, LeBron James, I can't blame him for leaving Cleveland. If I
can.
That roster?
He went to South Beach to be a sidekick. His shots are way down. His assists are up. He's averaging 20 a game. That team hasn't meshed so far. He's a sidekick.
Well, he could possibly be a sidekick, but at the same time, when you look at that Cleveland Cavalier roster, there's nothing for me to be desired about. I mean, you got Mo Williams, who always doesn't show up in the playoffs. Gasper's, he's on his last legs. Antoine Jameson never played a big game in his life. So you look at that roster, an old roster, I wouldn't have stayed in Cleveland too. Now, the way he announced it and going to Miami, I could have kind of questioned it. But at the same time, he wants to go places somewhere he want to win. When you heard Dwayne Wade, after losing in the first round of the playoffs last year against the Celtics, he said he didn't want to lose in the first round of the playoffs. So LeBron saw someone like him who wanted to keep winning.
I think the reason people hate this team so much, and hate's a strong word, but dislike this team so much, is the way the whole thing went down, and also kind of, remember when they were all introduced, Greg, and they're sitting there,
like the
arms like this, and Bosh screaming. It's like, it was like a championship type celebration, and they hadn't won anything. I mean, these guys have been crowned, champions of the offseason, and I think people just, enough is enough. They're a little annoyed, and they wouldn't mind seeing these guys get humbled.
Well, Chris Bosh hasn't won a thing. I mean, he's a good player on a bad team. So, but LeBron James went to the finals and won MVPs.
Hasn't won anything yet.
But hasn't won anything yet, but at least we know he can do it. He brought a team with nothing to the finals.
That's true. People do forget that. That's a very good point, Greg. Well, obviously, the Heat are not well liked around the league. Again, as I said, that's a good thing for the Celtics. I mean, outside of Joakim Noah and I guess, Charlie Villanueva, the Celtics are not the most hated team in the NBA. A lot of people jumping off that hatred bandwagon onto the Miami Heat bandwagon. But at the end of the day, all that matters is what happens on the court. We'll see if the Heat are a better team than they were the first time they played the Celtics.